Today we're going to be talking about the areas of your life that you've been thinking about doing something, maybe even for a really long time, but you just haven't jumped in yet. We want to help you figure out what those are and jump in and take action. And so, Paul, have you ever had a time in your life where you weren't quite ready to do something? You didn't maybe feel like you had all the pieces in place, but then you just did it anyway?
I did, and it was when I decided to get engaged with you.
Oh, that's a perfect example. All right, good. So, I'm not sure either one of us were actually ready for that, even though after 5 years, you'd think that maybe we were. Okay, so how'd that work out for you?
That worked out great.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
it was actually a good thing, and I guess the lesson should be that I should take more action on things that I normally would drag my feet on a little bit.
Well, I think you dragged your feet on that one, but it's okay. It all turned out well. So I was thinking about just one of our clients has a new section of her business, a new service that she's offering, and she has been entrenched in learning this new service and learning more and learning more and learning more. And as an outsider looking in, of course, we know that she is not only ready, she's beyond ready to just jump in and start doing. But there are some people, and let us know if you relate to this, there are some people who really feel like they need to know more, or even said another way, they need to know everything before actually taking action. Like, it's not just about knowing what the next step is. They want to see all the steps and understand the whole picture, all the pieces to the puzzle before they put the first couple pieces together.
Yeah.
Right? Would you say that you fall into that category?
Definitely. I definitely fall into that. I want to have everything kind of all the ducks in a row before I get started. And I know a lot of people that are like that. And generally we don't get started that quickly on things. And a lot of times we don't ever get started.
Yeah, sometimes
because
not at all.
we feel like there has to be one more step that needs to be completed before you can do that. And if that doesn't happen, then, well, why would I start?
Yeah. And so there's this desire, I think, that's behind that to either get it right, possibly get it perfect.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Yep.
And then, but I also want you to identify what the fear is behind that as well, right? So there's this desire to understand it all, to know it all, to get it right, to get it perfect.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Okay, tell me.
I will answer this question as honestly as I can. The fact is, I don't necessarily really want it to start. I just like the research and getting it all in place and all that. And I think that's why it's so important to be teamed up with somebody in a partnership or in some type of arrangement where you have somebody does a lot of the research and then somebody does the action part of it.
The implementation.
Because if you're waiting for that person who is going to just drag their feet and want to know every last bit of information before taking that next step, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so there has to be some milestones that are set up that when they hit that milestone, that the person who's more of the action taker would be taking it from there.
Okay. All right, good. So that's an interesting way of looking at things. I never really saw that perspective, and I should have known that because I understand a lot about you and how you're driven internally. And I know that you tend to be on the more intellectual side. You love the research part. I'm sort of middle of the road. There are some areas where I like to know a lot, and there are other areas where I just jump in and say, we'll figure it out as we go along.
Right.
I'm a little bit more likely to jump in and figure it out as we go along, but not extreme. Like, we have a client who is so about jumping in that
It's impressive.
it is beyond impressive.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of courage, right? And by the way, my favorite definition of courage I've ever heard was one that I learned in landmark education, which is courage is not about the absence of fear. It's about taking action in the face of fear, right? And I think of that client as someone who just, when he sees a vision, he just gets into action and does not let anything hold him back. So does that mean he might make some more mistakes along the way? Sure. But then he corrects the mistake and he moves forward, and then he corrects and he moves forward. So I think if we
and I think that is one of the challenges for people who like to have all the information before they get started, is that they don't want to make a mistake. And it's like if they make a mistake, then it's considered wrong or a failure. And so that's what keeps many people, including myself, from taking the action that I probably should.
Yeah. So
Into helping somebody, especially if you're in a management or leadership role, to really allow that person to know, like tell them, listen, we are hoping that there are going to be some mistakes here. Be okay with that. Be open for it and be looking for it, because with mistakes, and I think a lot of it too is that mistakes for me are just a waste of time. Like
Yeah.
I'm just like, if I have to take a couple steps back, then that just takes more time than actually doing it. But
you're learning
yeah,
along the way.
right.
And you know that for everything that we've ever jumped into and taken on, including this business, by the way, right?
Right.
When we started this business, we started before we were ready, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Like we jumped in and we bootstrapped it and we just worked our tails off. So yeah, did that create some inefficiencies? Absolutely. But you think about it, the longer we waited, you're never going to have all the pieces, and they're never going to fall exactly the way you think they are anyway. So one of the first things that we can say, if you've ever been in that place, or maybe you're sitting there right now, I want you to think about right now in this moment, what is the one thing that you have out there in front of you that you've wanted to do, that you currently want to do, but you're just not quite ready yet? I want you to think about what that is, hold that in your mind, and we're going to work through it. So first things first, if there's a fear out there, as you've described, about, okay, I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to fail. I don't want to have the perception of other people looking at me as though I've failed or made mistakes. Okay. So if that's one of the things that's running in your background, I want you to just think about shifting your expectation. Just as Paul said, rather than fearing the mistakes and fearing the failure, just expect that you're going to make some mistakes. Like shift your mindset around, instead of resisting against making mistakes, recognizing that mistakes are part of the learning process, because every single time we take something new on, we start in a state of confusion. That's just a fact, right?
Yeah.
And so rather than thinking, oh my gosh, I can't make a mistake, make a mistake, recognize that mistakes will be made along the way, and that you'll be gentle with yourself, like, cut yourself just a little bit of slack. And when the mistakes are there, as long as you've got a good system in place for how to correct, mistakes are fine, right? I mean,
Yeah,
unless you're
it's
a surgeon and you're operating on someone and life is at stake, then mistakes are just a little bit different. But short of like there being some major impact and injury, like assess what that impact really is. So think about something that you have been procrastinating.
Well, before I answer that, I want to follow up with what you were saying, and I think one of the solutions for people who are like notorious for slow starters or never finishing or love to get it started but then get squirreled and go on to something else is that they don't have a solid action plan with a milestone to get them to the first step. So what we think about as people that I just described is that being that type of person, I look to the end of what it's supposed to look like, and there's a lot of steps that take all the way to getting up there. If there's a shift in the action that needs to be taken, that could derail me. So in a lot of cases, what it's good to do to help somebody, to manage somebody through that, is say, we only want you to get this part done. We want you to take these 2 steps and get A and B done, so then you have now C. And there may be 4 more parts to completing the project, but if you can just get them a win on something with some approval, then they're not looking to the end of the road. They're looking just at the first, it's like the old analogy of, the headlights are on only as far as you can see with your headlights. That's as far as you can drive.
That's all you need to know.
You don't need to know where you're going to get to the mountains, right?
Right. So yeah, that's a great
but
analogy.
I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. So one of the things that I know, and depending on your behavioral style, it's different for each of us. But when you start thinking about whatever it is that you're after, yes, you have to understand the result. That's critical. It's very difficult to get started if you don't have clarity on the result. I would spend time there, right? Understand the result. But I I don't think that it's necessary to know every single action step to get to that result, because quite frankly, that can feel overwhelming. So what you're talking about is you do need to know the first step, right? What is the first step? What is the next step? That's really all you need to know in the moment. So take that thing that we asked you to think about, that thing that you want to do that maybe you've wanted to do for a while. And I don't care all the different steps that you need to make. If you understand the result and what you want, I only want you to think right now about what is the next step. One thing. What is one thing that I can do, and I can do pretty immediately, that will just get me in motion, right? Because it's progress that makes the difference, right?
Right.
And we've all heard the saying, progress over perfection. I use that all the time with my clients who get hung up on this. But it's really just about making progress. And you're right. When you start to feel that feeling of having a win, of taking that first step, whatever it is, that's getting you going, right?
Yeah. And in one of the other descriptions of somebody who's, generally doesn't take action and likes to just learn and keep understanding more, and is that they get overwhelmed and they get confused. So that's
Right.
that's the way to get stopped is, well, I'm just getting overwhelmed with this whole project because I'm looking at, the 50 steps that need to be taken and what it's supposed to look like. And I'm on step 3 and I'm just overwhelmed now. And I'm confused. I don't know what step 42 is going to be. So how am I going to be able to do step 38 if I don't know step 40, And so it's just this, it just creates all of this confusion. That's why I think it's so important to have these short, small milestones that you can help somebody to reach. And so they get a win right away. And then they get another win. And then they get another win. And they're building this pyramid, but they're just building it win by win instead of like, well, you start, and then 2 months later, when you get this big win, you get the the reward. And because most likely it's not going to happen, especially if somebody has a record, like a past of starting things but not finishing, or being overwhelmed, or being confused. If you have somebody, and they're all over the place. I mean, people are built this way, and it's just there are certain people who are action takers, and there are a lot more people who are stand around, get confused, and not take the steps, think about it, not finish.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about.
And I admit I am one of those.
Okay. So let's talk about time frames. So when you think about chunking it down, we talked about, the most important thing is you understand the next step, right? And once you've made that progress, understand the next step. Now, what would be really, really valuable is take whatever this is that you want to accomplish. And I don't care if it's a personal goal, a professional goal, a financial goal, whatever it is for you. Take that goal and put it out there and give it a time frame, right? But then I want you to then just shorten it and think, what do I need to do in the next 90 days? So 3 months time is really proven to be the right amount of time where we can actually get our mind around things. So stop thinking about out here, however far out there is, and start thinking about, what do I need to do in the next 90 days? Now, as of the filming of this, we're September, 23rd, right? Okay, so September 23rd. We are just rounding into the fourth quarter, 2019. It's the last quarter of the decade. Do you have clarity on what you're going to do in this last quarter? So often I find people like just kind of sliding into that fourth quarter, and, holidays are coming up and everything kind of slows down. And like, there's this whole story about how fourth quarter is just kind of
And the way holidays are coming up is because Costco and Sam's Club are already fully stocked
Halloween
with all the Christmas.
And Christmas. Yeah, like full on holidays. So we're in fourth quarter now. Has the Christmas music started yet?
Not yet.
No. Okay. Well, anyway, so I want you to really just think about this. Think about whatever that thing is that you have out there, and just ask yourself the question, do you right now have a really clear action plan for what you would need to do in the next 90 days to make momentum and progress toward the ultimate goal that you're after? You don't need to know what you're doing next quarter, like Q1 in 2020 or the following, but what do you need to do in the next 90 days? And as soon as you have some clarity there, like clearly, if your goal is here and that's 1 year away, you need to get like here, right? Where do you need to get to feel like you're in progress towards where you're going? So really, like, rather than overcomplicate it, simplify it. Now, once you know where you need to go in a quarter, then you can break it down to, so what do I need to do this month? And once you get clarity on what I need to do this month, then you say, and what do I need to do this week? And once you know that, what do I need to do today? And it really is just that simple. And then you don't have to worry about next week or even end of the quarter. You just think about, what do I need to do today? One thing. So here's my challenge for each of you out there is just get committed to the result. Write it down. That makes a massive difference. In fact, Brian Tracy says, once you put it in writing, you're more than 1,000 times more likely to achieve. So I don't know how he figured out those statistics, but I'm running with him. Just write it down. What is the result you're after and by when? And then I just want you to really take a look and spend a couple minutes here if you have to. What do you have to do this quarter, right? And then forget about that and just back it all the way down to, what do you have to do this week? What do you have to do today? And it would be so amazing to hear back from some of you who actually take this on and you make a commitment and you do one thing sometime today. Make that time. Find it, make it, plug it in your calendar, and do the one thing. And my guess is, whatever the first step is probably isn't going to take a whole day. And if it does and you don't have time, then make that step a little bit smaller. Chunk it down, make it manageable, pick one thing, start that momentum. We would love to hear from you. What did you take on and what did you do?
Man, did you get people fired up?
That goal. Well, gosh, I hope so. Because here's what I know. Whatever it is that you have out there that you desire is something that you're meant to do, right? And why hold that back anymore? Like, the ability in life to express who you are and what you're meant to do is so powerful. I mean, you've probably heard this way too many times if you've worked with us or followed us. Earl Nightingale's definition of success is my all-time favorite, and he says this: success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So all you need to know is, what is your worthy ideal? What do you want in life? What's worthy of your time, your effort, your energy, your money? Figure out what that is, and then get into progress toward that, right? So do one thing today and check it off your list and just see how it feels. What are you going to do today?
I got a lot of stuff I got to do today.
I know, but not that's on your regular to-do list. What's one thing you're going to do today to get us closer to something that's like a big, big result that we're after?
We were going to plan last Friday, and I end up just
crashing.
Yeah, I was out of it. So
it's busy time in our year because we have quarterly planning, so with a lot of our clients, and so it's
so I think it's definitely figuring out when we're going to make the time this week to do that, and maybe it's today if we have some time. But we'll have a meeting after this and figure out. But yeah, it's for sure to make sure that we do our 90-day planning for this next quarter.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So this is awesome because we have that in our calendar Friday. And we didn't make that. So your number one thing is you're going to get that calendared so we actually sit down and we have that plan. We've got the process in place, but we still need to meet and put the plan in place.
Yep.
All right, that's awesome. Well, for the rest of you, I hope that you take something on that. I don't care how much progress is progress. Do the one thing that moves you closer. That's all you have to do. All right, thanks for tuning in to the Evolve to Win show. If you liked this message, please share it if you know someone who needs to hear it. And you can always connect with us by going to LinkedIn and or go to YouTube, search Heather Christie, and connect with us there. You can subscribe and you'll catch all of these podcasts. You may be listening by audio. You can also see them on video on our YouTube channel.
And thank you for watching.
Have an awesome day.
Bye now.